When you hear the American dream, what comes to mind? Maybe it's a family standing proudly in front of their home, a white picket fence symbolizing success. A life where hard work leads to opportunity, stability, and achievement. But what if I were to tell you that success is being redefined? That for many, the dream is no longer about having more, but about living better. That a new vision of success is emerging. One that is built on trust rather than competition. One that is built not on status, but a new definition of what a good life truly looks like. Could you raise your hand if you've ever dreamed of moving abroad? That's many of you. Well, that was me too 7 years ago. You see, back in 2018, if you walked through my neighborhood in Kolkata, India, and asked, do you have a relative that lives in the US? 8 out of 10 people would nod enthusiastically. But if you asked the same question about Finland, you would get confused looks, maybe a mention of the Northern Lights, or even a counter question. Where is Finland? Fast forward to 2025, I find myself in a city that never sleeps. Not in a loud, chaotic way, but in its own quiet and determined way. People move with purpose in this city. Some even bicycle through the bike lanes, despite the icy roads and chilly January air. As I make my way to a cafe, you might wonder, am I in Chicago? Am I in New York? But in reality, I'm in this Finnish capital city, Helsinki, about to board a train to Turku, a city I've called home for the last 7 years. Moving to Finland was the single biggest decision of my life. No pressure at 22, right? When I chose Finland for my master's studies, it felt like taking the road less traveled. I wasn't sure it was the right decision, but I was determined to build a life in Finland and discover more about this Nordic country that is so unfamiliar to many in my community. Like every international student, I arrived full of hopes and dreams. I had packed my entire life into just 2 suitcases. And to be honest, most of that was just Indian snacks. When I arrived to Finland, I embraced everything. The brightly colored student overalls, going swimming in frozen Finnish lakes, and the sauna culture. I tried all of it. I even tried salmiakki, the famous Finnish salty licorice, for the first time, but also for the last time. But beyond the fun, I was here to build a life. That meant finding a job, creating a new identity for myself in this new country, and making Finland feel like home. Over time, I noticed something. I started receiving messages. They went, hey, I noticed that you live in Finland. I'm thinking of moving there too. Can I ask you a few questions? First, it was 1 message, and then 2. And then more and more every month. So I started an unofficial study. Whenever I met an international, I asked them, why Finland? And no, I wasn't trying to be nosy. I was genuinely curious how people from all over the world found their way to this quiet Nordic country. The answers, varied. Was it love? Was it studies like me that brought them here? Or was it the breathtaking Finnish weather that's cold, wet, and dark for almost 6 months of the year? So the answers I received were different. A family with a 5-year-old moved to Finland because they loved the idea of their 5-year-old child being able to play carefree and take the bus to school alone without worry. A same-sex couple moved to Finland because for the first time, they could walk down the streets of Helsinki hand in hand without feeling any judgment. And a mother of 2, she decided to move to Finland because she wanted her daughters to grow up in a country where she wouldn't have to worry about their safety every time they left the house, even if that meant that she would have to leave behind a life of comfort to become an immigrant in Finland. And then I had to ask myself the big question, why Finland? It was my studies that brought me here, but what made me stay? It was freedom. The ability to live life on my own terms. It meant that despite being an immigrant woman of color, I felt respected and welcomed at the tables that I wanted a seat at. It meant that I had time to pursue interests, which led me to passions I didn't know existed, like content creation. You see, I chose the Nordic Dream without even realizing it. But let's be real, Finland's version of success, it's different. It's not so much about fancy job titles or climbing the corporate ladder. It's about balance. It's about trust. It's about living in a society where parents feel comfortable leaving their babies outside to nap, where honesty isn't just a virtue, it's a way of life. But here's the thing. What we believe about a country isn't shaped by world happiness rankings or policies. It's shaped by our own experiences, the way we're treated, and the opportunities we have. And for many immigrants, that experience isn't always welcoming. Why Finland can seem like a very easy question before weeks turn into months without any job offers, any interview calls. When integration feels less like a process and more like a locked door. Sure, Finland has stunning nature, work-life balance, and the title of the world's happiest country. But these aren't just marketing slogans, right? They only truly matter if internationals can build a life here. Because happiness isn't just about taking long vacations. It's about opportunity. It's about belonging. It's about feeling like you are part of the society that you call home. And let me tell you what work-life balance doesn't solve. Uncertainty. One summer when Finland enjoyed its rare, beautiful golden sunshine, I hardly noticed. I had just received a phone call that I was being laid off, and I was uncertain of my future here. Would I be able to find a job in time? And if not, would I have to pack up my bags and leave? The skies were clear, but my future wasn't. And when your future is uncertain, no amount of fresh air or beautiful lakes can take away that weight. So after years of trying to build something meaningful in Finland, I found myself again standing at a crossroads. Being unemployed had left me vulnerable like never before, and it made me question if I would ever find my place in Finnish society, and if coming to Finland had indeed been a mistake. This experience changed my perspective. When I was a child, Sundays meant ice cream with my family. We would mix different ice cream toppings like chocolate, cookies, and sprinkles. The toppings were fun, but the real joy, having ice cream with my parents. As an adult, Finland's toppings are work-life balance, stunning nature, and the title of the world's happiest country. But the real joy has been finding purpose, feeling respected, finding my sense of belonging. Last year, I traveled back to India for my wedding with my Latvian fiancé, whom I met at university in Finland. A lot had changed in these 7 years. No one asked us where Finland was anymore. Instead, they asked, how do you take such long vacations? How do you run a business alongside a full-time job? And most importantly, are you happy living in Finland? My answer, the Nordic Dream, is not about chasing more. It's about living better in the present moment. So the next time you think of the American dream or perhaps the Nordic dream, I invite you to ask yourself, what kind of life do you truly want to live? The answer is yours to decide. Thank you.